Good evening, members. Welcome to Castle Point Cabinet meeting on the 18th of September. Members, we're not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm does go off during the meeting, please leave by the nearest emergency exit and make your way to gather outside in Runnymede Hall. Cabinet members, please introduce yourselves as listed on the agenda, starting with Councillor Warren Gibson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Warren Gibson, Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning.
Good evening, Chairman. Councillor Michael Fuller, Cabinet Member for Environment.
Good evening all. Councillor Tom Gibson, Cabinet Member for Special Projects and Assets.
Good evening all. Councillor Rob Lillis, Cabinet Member for Health, Wellbeing and Housing.
Evening, Councillor Steve Mountford, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Thank you, members. Sonia, have we any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Savage and Councillor Palmer.
Thanks very much. Agenda item 2, members, declaration of interest. Members, do you have any interests to declare? No? Thank you very much. Agenda item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of August 2024. Members, are the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of August agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, members. Agenda item 4, members' questions on notice. Members, there are none. Agenda item 5, financial update, first quarter update. Councillor Mumford, could you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. Okay. This is the quarter 1 finance update, and we'll start off with the general fund revenue, which is a forecast position of an underspend of £21,000, which is detailed in paragraphs 5 to 1. The main item being an underspend relating to lower pay awarded compared to budget and staff vacancies, and £200,000 interest receivable being lower than budgeted with a net of 21,000 under. The general fund capital is a forecast position of an overspend of £785,000 and is detailed in the paragraph 6. It should be noted that the general fund position is actually an underspend of £41,000. This is due to the fact that in August of this year, after Q1, Cabinet approved additional funding of £826,000 relating to the paddocks refurbishment and an underspend of £41,000 relating to council laptop replacement programme coming in under budget. HRA revenue, the capital forecast position is a nil variance position per paragraph 7. HRA capital forecast position is also a nil variance position as detailed in paragraph 8. Lastly, tonight we're looking for approval to allocate funding for 3 affordable housing schemes, 2 on Canvey in Benderlock and Linden Way, and 1 in Carlton Drive, Thundersley. Cabinet previously approved the original feasibility of £50,000 per scheme of £150,000, and the investigation works have demonstrated that these schemes are in fact viable. I would like Cabinet to approve the increases in the HRA capital scheme and payments approval for 3 affordable housing schemes as detailed in paragraphs 8.2 to 8.5, with a total increase in scheme approval of £2,034,000. The schemes are funded by £1.2 million of right to buy capital receipts, with the remainder being funded from other sources, including any available Section 106 funding that becomes available. Should the remainder all be funded from borrowing, the impact on the HRA has been assessed and is considered affordable with the long-term HRA business plan. Payments will be made in 24-25 of £20,000, and then in 25-26 the remaining balance of £2,014,000. That completes the quarter 1 financial update. So we're asking approval from Cabinet to fund the 3 affordable housing schemes with a value of £2,034,000, please. I'll gladly take any questions. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mumford. Members, any questions? No questions. Members, Recommendations 1 to 4 are set out in paragraph 3.1 to be noted. Is that noted, members? I will move recommendation 5. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item 6, corporate performance scorecard. Councillor Mumford, please introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is the scorecard relating to Q1. Present the scorecard for Cabinet to note for the report and to continue to monitor performance, as well as consider any performance that it might wish to refer to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for further investigation and review. The scorecard report is on the first quarter performance indicators for important service outcomes that are relevant to the Council's priorities set out in the current corporate plan. Starting with economy and growth, the indicators under this priority area are annual indicators and will be included in the quarter 4 24-25 report. People, of the 9 indicators, 6 were at or above target and 3 were below. The indicators below target related to homelessness prevention and relief, with performance impacted by a shortfall of suitable accommodation. The Council does, however, perform better than the national average for these measures. The third quarter indicator below target for swimming lessons participants at 1,683 against the target of 1,800, which is mainly affected by recruitment, which the service area is working to address. For place, of the 4 indicators, 1 was above target, 2 were below, and 1 is waiting for government published figures before we can update. The 1 indicator below target relates to property relets, where a number of factors impacted performance, including staffing, contractor response times, and some unanticipated issues arising with specific properties. The below target indicator in time taken to determine major planning applications with a 2-year rolling average. These were at 58% and is only just below the government minimum standard of 60% and is expected to be above target when reported at next quarter. For environment, 7 indicators, 6 were at or above target, 1 below target. There was an increase in the number of requests received in relation to the highway grass verge cutting due to significant grass growth in May and June. However, as also reported this quarter, no default notices were served on the contractor as cutting schedules were carried out per the contract. Lastly, enablers. Of the 8 indicators, 7 were at or above target and 1 was below. The number of customers using the e-billing service for the council tax and business rates was below target, with 10,050 customers against a target of 10,500. This number has remained fairly static over the last year, so we may have reached a natural saturation point. This will be investigated further with the service area to evaluate if the target levels are realistic. Although the report presents a number of recommendations, these are not presented as options rather than are for consideration by Cabinet. Cabinet is asked to note the performance report, and in the second recommendation is also asked to consider any performance it may wish to refer to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for further consideration. That completes the report. I welcome any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Manfield. Members, any questions? No questions, members? Is that noted then, that report, members? Members, are there any performance issues that you would like to refer to Overview and Scrutiny? No, members? Right, thank you very much. Agenda item 7, Customer Relationship Management System Business Case. Councillor Tom Gibson, please introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to seek Cabinet approval of the business case for the Council to invest in a new Customer Relationship Management, or CRM system, as a key step towards modernising the way that residents and businesses interact with the Council in order to access information, request support and access services. In recent times, long overdue improvements have been made to part of the Council's website. For example, the introduction of e-forms for council tax benefits and business rates. However, most council services can still only be accessed during office hours, usually through a telephone call or a physical visit to the council offices. Whilst it's true that some departments offer generic email addresses to which emails can be sent out of hours, the process that sits behind this method of receipt is identical to those received by other available access channels. There is currently little to no automation, with activities processed manually. The council does currently have a CRM system. This system, however, is used exclusively by the First Contact Customer Services team and has very little integration with other systems across the council. This creates numerous and varied inefficiencies in the processing of service requests, with nothing in the way of service updates for the customer, resulting in customers having to chase the council for process updates, thereby creating unnecessary and avoidable contact from customers. This customer experience is at odds with the way people access services in almost all other aspects of their lives, which are often fully automated and can be undertaken at the customer's convenience. It's proposed, therefore, that the council adopt a digital-first approach to service delivery, allowing the council to provide a modern and responsive service across all departments. Investment in a new CRM system will create a significant leap forward in achieving this ambition. This investment will also include creation of a modern website as the front door through which customers access service, with the CRM functioning as the back office, which enables the service to be performed. This will complement the aim of embedding new ways of working as per the Council's Transforming Together programme. There are numerous benefits to this proposal. The Officer Working Group responsible for bringing forward the business case provided some important and key data, which has been analysed and included in the business case to demonstrate the potential efficiencies that are achievable from implementing a new CRM system. Turning those efficiencies into cashable savings is the basis of the business case, an investment to make savings in the medium term. It's estimated that around 8,000 hours can be made up in efficiency savings through the implementation of this project. There is also a forecast additional 7,000 plus hours in efficiencies from expected reduction in phone calls, walk-ins and emails received as demand is met online. It is projected for there to be a total of around £389,000 of cashable efficiency savings, a breakdown of which can be seen in section 5.3 of the report. It's important to note that the reduction in headcount is not the driver. Any reduction for headcount is not the driver for this project, and therefore it is not proposed that the council make redundancies to fund it. The implementation period of 18 months means that on current projections, reduction in staff numbers is likely to be capable of being achieved over that time period through vacancies arising from the normal course of business, such as retirement or resignation. By achieving these efficiency savings, the unsettling impact on staff is minimised, whilst at the same time allowing the council to recoup its initial investment and arrive at a position where the cashable savings, which are ongoing, more than cover the annual licensing costs of the new CRM. Notwithstanding the strong financial argument for investing in a new CRM, at the heart of this project is the desire of the council to transform the way in which it delivers its services to residents and businesses across the borough. By implementing this new system, the council will be modernising and providing services in ways which are much more akin to the way that people access other services in both the public and private sectors. In terms of outputs, the business case proposes new customer workflows, e-forms, self-service customer portal, member portal to access information and raise requests on residents' behalf, website front end to access information and make service requests, and integration with back office systems. In terms of outcomes, the business case proposes a channel shift away from more expensive customer-facing support towards self-service and automation, although this will remain in place for those who have difficulty accessing the CRM facility. It demonstrates potential for a significant uplift in customer experience, such as automatic updates, as well as an uplift in member experience, allowing members to faster access information or progress updates on behalf of residents. The business case also proposes much more efficient and effective ways of working, as I touched on earlier. The new CRM system and website represents a significant investment for the council. However, this just shows how little investment was undertaken by successive previous administrations to enable modernisation of service delivery. Had the council made more incremental investments in such systems over time, it would have spent a similar amount to what is proposed in the business case, which includes detailed costings for the project covering staff costs, initial system purchase and implementation, and support and maintenance costs for the first 3 years. At this stage of the project's development, these costs are estimated to be in the range of £850,000 to £1.05 million, with a broad outline of costs detailed in Table 1 in Section 5.7 of the report. The proposed high-level timeline of implementation can be seen in Section 5.8 of the report, with the contract to be awarded after tender in December this year, and implementation between January 2025 and March 2026. Section 5.1 sets out for members the scope of the business case. Section 6 of the report outlines all of the options available to Cabinet this evening. The preferred option, which I propose Cabinet adopt tonight, is option 4, the purchase of a new cloud-based CRM. Although this is the highest investment cost option with significant implementation timescales, the numerous advantages that I touched on earlier far outweigh this. This has the added benefit of foundations for future development through low or no code interface design to design new processes and workflows more easily, representing this administration's commitment to modernisation, fiscal responsibility and efficiency going forward. Of course, as with any project on this scale, there are associated risks as set out in Section 7. I do, however, believe that these are more than mitigated by the numerous and substantial benefits outlined earlier. A further breakdown of the financial implications is set out in Section 10 of the report. Should Cabinet approve the recommendations as set out in Section 3 of the report this evening, it will further demonstrate to residents our commitment to modernising this council after years, if not decades, of underinvestment. It will deliver a service to our residents far beyond that which we are currently capable of and result in significant efficiency savings down the line. With this in mind, I'd like to thank Ben Brooks and Mike Greenwood for their comprehensive work on this business case and the company report, and endorse the recommendations as set out. I will, of course, be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, any questions? No questions, members. Can I just say this is, I think, a big step forward for this council. I think it's a part of our custom relationship which we've been talking about, and it hopefully, and I'm sure it will, make it a very better experience for our residents communicating with the council. So I think this is an exciting project, long overdue. So members, there are 3 recommendations in paragraph 3.1. Are you happy for me to take them all together? I will move all the 3 recommendations. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gibson, thank you very much. Is that agreed then, members? Thank you very much, members. Agenda item 8, the voluntary and community sector, buildings and land lease policy. Councillor Tom Gibson.
Thank you, Leader. So the purpose of this report is to seek Cabinet approval of the voluntary and community sector buildings and land lease policy, which can be seen as an appendix to this report. For some background, the Council currently leases around 50 assets to voluntary and community sector or VCS organisations. In order to maintain this administration's commitment to transparency, this new policy has been drafted to ensure transparency, clarity and consistency in the leasing of council assets to VCS organisations. The policy will introduce a fair, consistent and transparent approach to the way in which assets are valued, rents are set and how discounts are applied, the occupational terms offered and the way in which premises are allocated to VCS organisations. The policy underpins and should be read in conjunction with the acquisition and disposal policy adopted earlier this year. There are 4 key elements of the policy which will determine the allocation and overall terms of occupancy for VCS organisations in the council's premises. These are an open and transparent allocations process, a valuation and rent negotiation process, a rent subsidy application process, and a lease through draft heads of terms. The draft policy was considered by the Asset Review Board on the 2nd of September this year, at which members supported the draft policy and asked that it be taken to Cabinet for consideration. The policy is attached to the report, so I won't go all the way through it, but I'll give a brief overview of its scope and its key features. In terms of application, the policy may apply to any council property where full market rent is not reasonably achievable and is subject to consideration by the Asset Review Board, with the final decision to grant the lease being taken through the relevant corporate governance process in line with the acquisition and disposal policy once the asset has been valued for a market rent. The policy will ensure that council-owned assets occupied by VCS organisations are fully maximised for the benefit of residents. The policy will establish a fair, open, consistent and transparent approach to the setting and agreement of lease arrangements and rent levels for all VCS organisations occupying council-owned property. This will be achieved through a fair, consistent and transparent approach to the heads of terms, valuation and rent negotiation, rent subsidy application and premises allocation. An organisation's status as a VCS organisation will be determined by its not-for-personal profit status and will include different types of incorporated and unincorporated organisations. The allocation process is detailed in the policy appendix, so I won't go through it bit by bit. What I would like to touch on is the rent subsidy application process and its associated scoring matrix. A discount of up to 50% of the agreed market rent will be provided to VCS organisations that meet the criteria as set out in Appendix 3 to the proposed policy. In exceptional circumstances where the awarded discount would still result in the VCS organisation having a financially unviable service, an additional discount may be considered by the Director of Commercial Assets in consultation with the Section 151 officer. Such consideration will only be made where there is no other interested party in the property and will be contingent on the VCS organisation reasonably demonstrating what the shortfall will be. The level of discount awarded is otherwise dependent on the VCS organisation's score achieved on the rent subsidy scoring matrix. This takes into account the sustainability of the VCS organisation, its value in supporting the council's priorities and objectives, how it supports the borough as a whole, and why the relevant asset is the most suitable for the organisation. The maximum achievable score in this matrix is 65, with organisations scoring 50 and above qualifying for the maximum 50% market rent discount. Lower scores can result in lower discounts, as set out in Appendix 3 to this policy. Hopefully that brief overview provides some context to the proposed policy, which members will have read through by now. The recommendation to adopt the policy is set out in Section 3 of the report. I'd be happy to take any questions, but just before I do, Leader, I'd like to just point to a slight typographical error that's on the Appendix 3 to the policy. So the rent subsidy scoring matrix, Table A, so the first one is financial resources. That then goes on to what should be Table B, but has been erroneously marked 8.3.1. So the contribution towards Castle Point Borough Council priorities should be marked as B, and then the subsequent benefit to the borough as a whole should be C instead of B, and the suitability of the property for the VCS organisation should be D instead of C, if that makes sense. So we've just got one table marked erroneously, which has then had a knock-on effect to the later one. So if we could just make that amendment,
I think we understand that.
I'll be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, are there any comments? No comments? Okay, members, thank you very much. Members, I will move the recommendation set out in paragraph 3.2. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, is that agreed? Thank you very much. Agenda item 9, lease of the section of the council offices at Kiln Road, Thundersley, to CAVs. Councillor Gibson, can you again introduce the subject? Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. This will be the last you'll hear from me tonight, you'll be pleased to know. The purpose of this report is to seek Cabinet approval to lease part of the council offices at Kiln Road to the Castle Point Association of Voluntary Services, or CAVs for short. For anyone watching who may not be aware of CAVs, they are an organisation which is invaluable to the Castle Point community, as they provide information, advice and guidance to voluntary and community organisations to develop solutions for local issues. Organisations are matched with potential volunteers aimed at improving their communities as they work with existing voluntary sector providers to extend their schemes, as well as local statutory bodies to identify and develop new services addressing specific local need, including working with vulnerable young people, children and families, social isolation and health and wellbeing. This is similar to items at recent Cabinet meetings to do with organisations taking up tenancies in the council office building, as we look to move towards the creation of a community hub of various stakeholders occupying space previously used by the council workforce prior to the introduction of hybrid working during COVID. For this reason, I won't go through the report in detail, but will just give an outline of the pertinent points. CAVs currently holds a 6-year lease until July 2028, occupying part of the first floor in the White House building to the rear of the Kiln Road Council offices. This space is not as modern as that which can be provided inside the council offices, which will provide an improved location in which to operate the service for both staff and user groups. It's proposed that CAVs will occupy 118 square metres, or 2.6% of the unoccupied floor space, to the rear corner of the office building. The space is currently 2 office rooms with a further smaller separate office accessed from within the smaller room. Residents will continue to have access to CAV services, requiring an informal discussion about personal circumstances and guidance and support that can be provided. This provides an opportunity for the council to support CAVs as a community partner by improving access to services within a more accessible council office building. In order to segregate the proposed office accommodation from the wider open plan adjoining space, the council will need to invest in some new stud partition walling to future-proof the adaptation of the office space that will remain available on the ground floor. An indicative budget estimate of £10,000 will enable other user groups to be determined in the future to be able to operate independently. An independent valuation was prepared in July this year for the parcel of office space to be leased. Officers expect the proposed rent of £10,150 to align with the draft no longer draft, recently adopted community sector buildings and land leasing policy, discussed in the last item in this meeting. CAVs currently lease the current space in the White House for £11,535 per annum, plus a very small recharge for insurance costs. The recommendations in this report will see the existing lease terminated and replaced with a new lease at the lower value of £10,150 per annum. However, under the proposed lease, the council will be able to charge a service charge to CAVs, which will, in essence, serve to share some of the costs the council currently incurs. This service charge has been estimated at £6,200 per annum, with business rates of approximately £6,000 in addition. Without getting bogged down in all the financials set out in the report, the summary is that the net reduction in rent and net increase in rates totals £8,385. It's reasonable to assume that a portion of the service charge covers costs which would otherwise have been the sole responsibility of the council, but even if it's assumed that 50% of the service charge does this, the overall cost to the council caused by the move of CAVs would be £5,285. It's expected that identification of minor savings and efficiencies can take place to cover this cost. Members, this represents a fantastic opportunity to assist a vital local community partner and brings us a step closer to realising our community hub vision for the Castle Point Council offices. The recommendations are set out in the report before you, and again, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. And I am really pleased we got this done in the end, because they're such a fantastic group, and it's pleased that they will be welcome now into the main building. Members, have we got any comments? No comments? Members, there are 4 recommendations set out in paragraph 3.1, which I'll move from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, are you happy to vote on all the recommendations together? Is that agreed then, members, everybody? Thank you very much, members. Agenda item 10, matters referred from Overview and Scrutiny. There are none. Members, that concludes the formal business for this evening. I declare the meeting closed and good evening. Thank you.